Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Today's episode is going to focus on 10 days. It's a story about a man, a father, and what he did with his own hands.
I had these thoughts in my head to try to do this, and then I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Tim Jones was a father of 5 children. In August 2014, he had primary custody of the kids, who were between 1 and 8 years old. Friends and coworkers described Tim as intelligent and clever. But in the months leading up to August, many say they noticed a change in his behavior. As we look at the case of South Carolina v. Timothy Jones, I want you to focus on these questions. Who was the defendant, and what was his state of mind?
After everything we've gone over, what is it you'd like to say about your actions?
God, I'm sorry. Children, I love you. I hope I see you again someday if I'm worthy to. I'm sorry.
Most importantly, this story is about 5 children. It's about 1-year-old Abigail Jones, 2-year-old Gabriel Jones, 6-year-old Natan Jones, 7-year-old Elias Jones, and 8-year-old Mara Jones. It's about telling the story of their lives and of what happened to them. They say that journalism is about giving voice to the voiceless, and this episode is about speaking on behalf of those who cannot be heard. There were warning signs leading up to August 2014. Some were noticed and some were addressed. But I want you to decide if more could have been done. Before we begin, I want to make a disclaimer. This episode does involve crimes committed against children, and although I will never glorify any of it or focus on unnecessary details, listener discretion is advised. This is Jillian, and you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 85. Amber Jones Kaiser is seated on the witness stand, listing the 5 children she had with her ex-husband, Timothy Jones Jr.
Mira Gracie, born in Pennsylvania, 5/15/2006. Elias Xavier, born in Mississippi, 4/22/07. Natana, he said, born 4/11/2008, born in Mississippi. Gabriel Asher, born here in South Carolina, 12/5/2011. And my daughter Abigail Elizabeth, born here in South Carolina, 12/12/12.
Amber met Tim when she was 19 years old in Chicago. She was working 3 jobs and he was in college. She said at the time, Tim was heavily involved in a Pentecostal church. She began attending with him, and they found a group of people that formed into a family at the church.
Women generally were not allowed to cut or trim their hair. No pants, no makeup, no jewelry. The more they underlined modesty for women to a T. It was a woman's Tim's motto was women are supposed to be fruitful and multiply. A woman is supposed to listen to her husband.
The church felt like it was too enticing for them to be dating and not committed. So just 6 weeks after they met, they were married. They moved to Mississippi so Tim could attend college for computer science and engineering. They had 3 children at that point and were living in on-campus housing. Tim was able to go on a trip to South Korea through Mississippi University. After graduating, he was offered a job working for Intel as an engineer making $65,000 a year, and so the family moved to Lexington County, South Carolina. They lived in what Amber described as a rundown trailer that needed a lot of work. They had 3 young children, and she was pregnant with their 4th. Tim got a raise while working at Intel and started making $80,000 a year. He spoke to his boss about going to graduate school and decided to apply to med school. But even though Tim was seemingly starting to be successful, according to Amber, their marriage became volatile. She described one incident when the family was leaving Walmart, and Tim said, "Let's play chicken." He allegedly steered the car into the direction of an oncoming 18-wheeler with Amber and the kids in the back seats. He jerked it away at the last minute and started laughing. And meanwhile, their marriage was starting to become abusive. Amber said verbal abuse would entail him saying things like he was going to chop her up and feed her to the pigs, and all that would be left would be her teeth. There was physical abuse, too. Amber said he once grabbed her on the side of the head and headbutted her to the point where she blacked out. Another time, he apparently threw a phone at her face and broke some of her teeth. Amber said the worst part, though, was that some of the children saw when he spat in her face, called her a whore, and smacked her head on a window. After 9 years of marriage, she had enough.
I was not willing to give up my rights as their mother, so we came to an understanding, an arrangement that we had joint custody, him being the primary caregiver. I did not want him being the primary caregiver, if you will, but he was the better provider. He made the finances. I was just getting on my feet. I thought I was making the best decision I could as a mother. He had a steady job. He had a roof over his head. He had a vehicle.
As they were working out the terms of their divorce, she said Tim was represented by an attorney while she didn't have one. Tim had primary custody of the kids, and he would supervise her visits with the kids, usually at Chick-fil-A, on dates he decided. She said she was willing to do whatever she had to in order to see her children. Tim told her the children were never going to live with her, and at times he tried to encourage her to come back home. In addition to her visits, she also bought the kids clothing and offered to help with money, diapers, and school supplies. But her visits became less and less frequent. Tim started to make excuses for why he couldn't bring the kids to see her.
There were times that he caved in or would give me an answer as to, well, one of them got in trouble at school or something along those lines where I wasn't able to see them. It was their punishment.
She admitted that there were also times that she wasn't able to go see them because she didn't have the gas. Amber later remarried to a man named Sean Kaiser. She was asked if she had ever said she didn't want her children, and she said, "No, ma'am." Even though she wasn't able to see them as much, she still called her children every night at 7 p.m. In May 2014, the older 3 children were enrolled at Saxe-Agatha Elementary School. Natan Jones was in kindergarten when he came into school with bruises on his neck in the shape of an adult-sized hand. An allegation of abuse was filed by the school to the Department of Social Services, also known as DSS. The complaint made by the school read, quote, "Timothy Jones got upset with Natan, choked him around the neck, and pushed him against the wall as he held him there. The child has a bruise on his neck that resembles a thumb and fingerprints. But despite the report, Natan and the other children remained with Tim. Amber said DSS never came to meet with her about the complaint. I said in the intro of this episode that we'll be focusing primarily on 10 days. Day 1 was August 28th, 2014. Amber said when she called her kids at 7:12 p.m., Tim put the call on speakerphone.
I heard my son crying. And I asked him what was wrong.
Which son?
My son, Natan. I said, son, what's wrong? He said, Mom, I didn't mean to. And Tim was going on in the background, and you could have killed yourself, son. And then got mad at me because I was trying to calm my son down.
She said Natan was dry heaving and gasping for air because he had been crying so much that he couldn't catch his breath.
And Tim got mad and said, why do you always have to defend the kids? I guess you could say I always defended the kids. He was more the disciplinary. I was not. I went on to disagree with him and let him know that I didn't think, that I thought that my son had gotten the point and that I was tired of hearing my kids crying all the time. And Tim hung up the phone before he hung up the phone, told me to shut the fuck up and hung up the phone.
She said Tim sounded outraged. After he hung up on her, Amber called him back several times and left voicemails.
Tim, I'm not calling to argue or anything. I just, like, the past 2 or 3 phone calls, you've been, like, really on edge and angry or, like, I don't know how to explain. I'm saying you're, like, coming off really frustrated or whatever, and I was just concerned about you, so please call. I'm not calling to argue or anything. I wish as a parent, though, you would allow me to correct my children as well. And I believe that sometimes when you're frustrated, that you should allow the other parent to talk to the child. If I were angry, I'd ask you to probably speak to the kids. Only because sometimes the way you come off, and it goes for me too, the way you come off, or when you're in angry mood, things don't come out right in it. You just sound frustrated for the past 3 days, so please call me back and get this. Bye. Sam, the way you're talking to me is extremely unfair. Seriously, I didn't even say anything mean in our conversation just now, and you yelled and you hung up the phone on me. And it's wrong. I don't know if you need to get on your knees and start praying or what, but something's going on because you've been like this for the past 3 days. I don't think you understand sometimes the way you come off. I don't know. I did nothing in this conversation just a minute ago to have you hang up on me and yell and act fanatical. So what is going on?
She said she initially wasn't concerned that he wasn't returning her calls. It wasn't uncommon for the two of them to have arguments and for Tim not to answer. Sometimes he would even disappear for a weekend and then just say he was busy. Day 2 was August 29th. The 2 youngest kids, Gabe and Abigail, were supposed to be dropped off with their babysitter, Christine Elke, who lived next door to Tim and the kids. Christina said by 9:30 a.m., when the kids didn't show up as they normally would on a Friday morning, she texted Tim, quote, wondering if kids are coming. Tim responded, "Don't worry about this morning. I'll see you later next week." That was unexpected to her, but she responded, quote, "So are they coming Monday or when?" Tim responded, Tuesday. She texted him back, okay, well, y'all have a good Labor Day.
Labor Day comes around. Do you see any sign of activity next door?
Nothing. No vehicle, nothing.
You're still expecting the children to come in on Tuesday the 2nd because he had told you that they would be in on Tuesday.
Yes.
So in response to expecting them on Tuesday, what, if any, message did you send to Mr. Jones?
I sent him a reminder, just a reminder, please bring some diapers tomorrow.
Okay. And what did you mean in reference to that?
Tomorrow being Tuesday when they were supposed to return.
And was it normal with you keeping the two babies, Gabe and Elaine?
Yes.
You may need diapers?
Yes.
And what was his response to that?
Busy, question mark.
So you're reminding him to bring diapers, and his response back to you is?
Busy, question mark. Yeah.
Okay. What'd you say back?
I said, okay. I didn't quite understand what that meant, busy.
She said Tim then called her and told her he left South Carolina because he needed a fresh start. He owed her money for babysitting and told her to take whatever she wanted from the house as compensation. He mentioned the washer, dryer, a computer, anything of value, and that was it. Mara, Elias, and Natan were enrolled in the Boys and Girls Club after-school program. The school year had recently begun, so they had only been in the program for a few weeks. At the end of each day, Tim would pick them up. He was the only person authorized to pick them up. Jan Wise served as the director of the program. She said Tim picked the kids up during the week of August 25th through August 28th, but the kids did not return to the program on Friday, August 29th, which brings us to days 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, they were absent on the Friday, and then on the third day afterwards, the following week, on Tuesday, when they weren't there, all three of them had been absent for 3 days. And so it alarmed me, and I went to the administrative office, and I believe I told Ms. Riker, the assistant principal, that they had not been at the Boys and Girls Club after school program for 3 days, all of them.
She said when she last saw Tim pick up the kids, she didn't have any reason to be concerned about his mental health. If she did, she said she wouldn't have allowed the children to leave with him. Day 6 was September 2nd. Janet Ricard was the assistant principal at the children's elementary school. She said she noticed when the children weren't in class on that Friday, but thought they might have taken a long holiday weekend. When they were not back on the Tuesday after Labor Day, she became concerned. She called Tim and left him a voicemail. She said she next went into the emergency contact list that Tim had given them for the kids and began making calls. One was to Roberta Thornsberry, their great-grandmother, and another call to a coworker at Intel. Amber was not on that list. When she spoke with Roberta, Roberta told her that she was concerned too because they were supposed to visit over the holiday weekend and hadn't shown up. The coworker at Intel told Janet that he had not heard from Tim either, but was also looking for him. Janet then met with the school principal. They decided to go to the Jones mobile home with law enforcement to conduct a welfare check. When they got to the home, she said she was surprised that the family lived there because of Tim's job at Intel. She knocked on the front door. There was no answer.
It was eerily quiet to know that 5 children lived there. It was obvious that no one was there. I became extremely concerned. My heart dropped because at that point we had had absolutely no contact since that previous Thursday. And in my mind, they had disappeared. They had vanished.
That same day, on September 2nd, Amber kept trying to contact Tim. She called him at 5:59 p.m. He didn't pick up. She called him again 5 minutes later. This time, he answered. She recorded the call using an app on her phone. The audio from the call, however, is really difficult to understand, so I'm going to summarize what's said after I play you this small clip from the very beginning of the call, just so you can hear what his voice sounded like.
Hello? Tim? Hey. You haven't answered for days. What the heck? My phone sucks. Oh, well, that's why I called earlier. I was worried and haven't shown up.
He tells her that he's been traveling a lot. She says she's been worried because she hasn't been able to reach him. She asks if he's off work now and if he picked up the kids. She asked if she can see the kids next Saturday, and she tells him that she had to move some things around so she can fit with his schedule since he won't work with her. He then tells her, seemingly randomly, that she didn't put out enough for him. She responds, "Apparently, I put out for you a lot because I had plenty of kids with you." She tells him that he never went out of his way to do anything for her and that she doesn't want to hear it. "All right," he says. She asks if she can call the kids at 7 o'clock, and he says no. "Well, how am I supposed to talk to the kids?" she asks. He responds, but it's hard to tell what he's saying. "Are you drunk?" she asks him. "No, I'm not drunk," he says. "Well, you seem really out of it," she replies. He tells her that he is out of it, that he slept like shit the last couple of days. She asks if she can call back at 7, and he tells her that he'll probably be on the phone then. She tells him that she's irritated that she's not going to be able to talk to the kids at all, and that it's weird that he has kept the kids for days. She asks if they're on vacation with him or something, and just doesn't want her to know. He said he doesn't care if she knows. He then tells her he's going to go, and she says, all right.
He sounded very, maybe intoxicated. I believe I even asked him that on the phone call. He sounded happy but out of it, different. I had asked him and he said he had just been moving around a lot. Kind of sounded carefree. It sounded intoxicated, like he was on something.
She said although she didn't hear any of the children in the background of the call, she had no indication that they were in danger. But she was still concerned, not only for the children, but for Tim. Day 7, September 3rd. Amber reported her ex-husband and their 5 children as missing. Over the next 3 days, the search for them intensified. Which brings us to day 10. Before she reported them missing, Amber had a planned visit with the kids on Saturday, September 6th. She said she went to Chick-fil-A anyway in hopes that they would show up, but they never did. Tim never responded to any of her calls or texts after that last call she recorded 4 days earlier. That same day, while Amber was hoping that they would show up at Chick-fil-A, a gas station attendant in Alabama noticed a man, later identified as Tim, driving up in a black Escalade. She said when the man got out of his car, there was an awful smell coming from it. Then later that day, a sheriff's deputy in Smith County, Mississippi, pulled him over for a traffic stop. While approaching the car, the deputy said he could smell marijuana coming from inside. He asked the driver for his license when he smelled another horrible odor. Tim told him that the smell was from trash inside his car. The deputy believed that Tim was under the influence of something, so he searched the vehicle. He reported finding Scooby snacks, also known as spice, which is a synthetic marijuana. Tim was placed under arrest for DUI and possession of paraphernalia. The deputy said he noticed what looked like blood inside the car and notified another unit. He gave the driver's name to the dispatch, who ran it. Tim Jones immediately came up under the missing persons report, and South Carolina authorities were notified. The Smith County Sheriff arrived at the scene. He told the deputy to ask Tim where the children were. According to the deputy, Tim said he didn't have any children. The sheriff then instructed the deputy to ask him again. This time, Tim said he had 3 kids who were all in South Carolina. The sheriff said that Tim was sweating profusely, just pouring sweat. At that point, the sheriff hadn't had much interaction with people under the influence of spice. But since then, he has, and said at trial that Tim's behavior at the time was consistent with someone who had taken spice. Tim was booked into the Smith County Jail and placed under suicide watch. Investigators from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, also known as SLED, along with the FBI, arrived in Mississippi. Authorities didn't know the status of the children. They didn't know where they were or if they were still alive. But they had to have hope. They had to treat the situation as if there was a possibility they could save them. That's why they made the unconventional decision to call Tim's father and ask him to meet with him to see if he could elicit some answers for them. The next day, while meeting with his son at the jail, Tim Jones Sr. asked him, "Son, did you hurt the children?" Tim jumped up and grabbed his father by the throat and said yes, but then said no. Then he screamed, "Oh God, what did I do?" The sheriff would later recall that after seeing Tim grab his father like that, he had the thought that maybe Tim was showing them what he had done to the children. Now, before I continue on with this case, I have to take a break here to tell you about the sponsor of today's show. There's really no easy way to break for an ad in an episode as serious as this one. But without my sponsors, I wouldn't have a podcast to be able to cover these cases, and I'm so grateful for them. Today's sponsor is NetSuite. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. But the problem that growing businesses have that keeps them from knowing their numbers is their hodgepodge of business systems. They have one system for accounting, another for sales, another for inventory, and so on. It's just a big, inefficient mess, taking up too much time and too many resources, and that ends up hurting the bottom line. But now, introducing NetSuite by Oracle, the business management software that handles every aspect of your business in an easy-to-use cloud platform, giving you the visibility and control you need to grow. With NetSuite, you save time, money, and unneeded headaches by managing sales, finance and accounting, orders, and HR instantly, right from your desktop or phone. And that's why NetSuite is the world's #1 cloud business system. And right now, NetSuite is offering Court Junkies valuable insights with a free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits at netsuite.com/court. That's netsuite.com/court to download your free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. netsuite.com/court. You may not know this about me, but I am a pretty big sports fan. Couple that with the fact that I love a good story, and that makes me really excited to tell you about a new daily sports podcast from Wondery and The Athletic that you're going to want to listen to. It's called The Lead, and it's for every type of sports fan who wants to go beyond the box score. Every weekday morning, The Lead will bring you one big story from The Athletic's all-star team of local and national sports reporters. Some stories will be a fresh take on a major news event, and other episodes will feature an in-depth look into what's been happening off the field. From the story of how a terrible call in last year's NFL playoffs made the entire city of New Orleans and pretty much everybody else lose their minds, to in-depth interviews on mental health in sports, The Lead is your daily lens into the biggest stories of the day, told by the people who write them. The Lead is hosted by sports writer Kavitha Davidson and Peabody Award-winning journalist Anders Kelto, who will take you close to the story through comprehensive reporting, fascinating clips, and exclusive interviews you won't hear anywhere else. Stay tuned till the end of this episode for a preview of The Lead. And don't forget to subscribe to The Lead on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this right now. On September 8th, Lexington County charged Tim with unlawful conduct towards a child in order to hold him while the search for the children continued. Agent David Mackey went to the Lexington County Sheriff's Office to meet with Detective Anthony Creech, Lexington County officials, and SLED officials. Agent Mackey's plan was to confront Tim with what he had done to his children. He read him his Miranda rights and had him sign his advice of rights form. Then, Agent Mackey and Detective Creech began questioning him about what happened to the children, and Tim had a lot to tell them.
Can you walk us through what happened?
I questioned a ton about 4 outlets that he blew. After a series of not getting any favorable responses out of him, I tried to use more harsh measures to just try to get out of him what was going on because I didn't know what he was doing. I seen 4 destroyed outlets. Is it for me, him? Was he curious? I just didn't know what was going on, and I was trying to make sense of it. I think I worked him too hard, or maybe it was a combination of the electricity. I know electricity takes electrolytes out of your body. Something happened. It was out of the ordinary, and he wouldn't tell me. If I would have known it, I would have gotten medical help, whatnot, but I don't know what he did. He didn't tell me. I didn't see any burn marks on his body, so that's why I didn't rush him to the hospital. So after the fact, he was deceased.
And then what happened to him?
How did he get deceased? What did you do?
I sent him to bed after I worked him real hard because he wouldn't answer me.
And what do you mean by working him too hard?
I just PT'd his ass till he couldn't handle it. Tried to crack him more butt a couple times to get something out of him to tell me what was he doing.
Right.
What's his motive?
And when you're saying PT, and what are we talking about?
Squats and push-ups.
Squats, push-ups. And how long were you having him PT?
I'm PT like an hour. Like I said, there's nothing out of the ordinary. Those kids would do insanity with it. We had fun doing it.
And where did he go from? You're doing this where in the house? Where you PTing?
This was in the living room, and then I finally got tired of him and sent him to bed. Okay. To bed. You're not telling me the truth. I can't help you. Go to bed, man. You're wasting everybody's time.
And then you find out what?
I come back and find out that he's deceased. And when I find out he's deceased, then the shit hits the fan and all.
How does the shit hit the fan, Tim?
The voices start going off, and then here comes the paranoia. Oh shit! What just happened? What just happened? This ain't gonna go. I can't call. But I got all these voices running through my head now.
And then what happens, Tim? What did you tell us earlier? So Natan was dead, and then what happened?
And I followed suit with the other 4.
And how did you kill
that
them?
Was with my hands.
With your hands? Can you describe what you mean by with your hands?
Around their neck.
Around their neck?
Who was next?
I'm just going to put the order so I don't have to go into too much detail.
Okay, just tell us the order.
Natan, Mira, Elias, Gabriel. Wait. Natan, Eli, Mira, Gabriel, Elaine.
Just to recap, in case that was difficult to understand, he said he PT'd Natan, made him do squats and push-ups till he couldn't handle it. He worked his son so hard to confess why he had blown electrical outlets in the house that he collapsed and died. He then killed his other children with his own hands by suffocating them and using a belt on the youngest 2. He said he had all these voices in his head now. He said it all happened in the living room of the house. Next, Agent Mackey asked him what he did with the bodies.
At that point, I was just running on fear, and I wasn't thinking. Any normal person would have said, let me call the police and just turn myself in.
Okay.
I took the coward route and started following those voices in my head, which led me down such a nice path I'm on today.
And what did you do then?
What do you mean?
With the bodies.
I put them in bags and threw them on the hill.
Okay, no. When you're at the house.
Oh, load them. I just load them in the car.
Did you put them in the bag at that time?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was just 5 dead bodies.
You put them in the vehicle. What type of vehicle was that?
Cadillac Escalade.
All right. And what do you do from there?
I start driving out of fear.
Tim, tell us, what was your original plan to do with the bodies? Now that we've had a chance to talk about it.
I don't know what my original plan was. I had so many thoughts going through my mind.
What were some of them? Because you wrote some notes and you bought some
I had 100 different thoughts about what I could do.
Okay.
I don't want to sit and incriminate myself, but I
you're fine.
had a bunch of different things.
Tim had been driving around the Southeast with his children's bodies covered up with blankets in the back of his vehicle. He tried to use air freshener in the car, but it did little to cover up the stench of 5 decomposing bodies. He purchased a dust mask, goggles, saws, muriatic acid, and a 5-gallon pail. On a piece of paper, he wrote, Day 1, burn up bodies. Day 2, saw down bones. Day 3, dissolve and discard. But he said that while he was having these thoughts, he couldn't go through with it. So on September 4th, he purchased trash bags to put the bodies in, and he began driving around, but with no plan of where to go.
Now, you said you're just driving around, you have the bodies in the car, and where are you going at that time?
Nowhere, I guess, because in my mind, I'm just running. I have nowhere to go.
Because you didn't plan this.
I didn't plan this, no. It's just like,
spontaneous.
This is spontaneous, and I just fucked up my whole life.
Okay.
One bad incident, and I'm not following through with what I should have, and
On September 5th, his vehicle got stuck on the side of a road, and he actually had an interaction with a police officer.
I pulled off to the side at somebody's house to try to collect myself and see where I was at.
Yeah.
And in the process of pulling back onto the road, I got stuck in a ditch.
Got stuck, and what happened?
The tow truck had come out. He called a wrecker.
All right. Did you have any law enforcement contact that night?
Law enforcement just showed up on his own. He was patrolling. And
okay. Can you describe what he looked like?
Probably about maybe 5'10", shaved hair, Caucasian male.
Okay.
When you have contact with this officer, where are your children?
In the car.
Okay, they're dead in the car.
Yes, sir.
Surprisingly, while speaking with the officers in this interview, Tim then began to place the blame on his son, Natan.
He's what kind of started this all.
He triggered this all.
If he would have told you what happened to the outlets that night,
I would have went and acted appropriately to try to help him.
None of this would have happened.
On the morning of September 6th, Tim was in Greenville, Alabama. He bought a 10-pack of cigarettes and some junk food. He then withdrew $500 from a bank in Camden, Alabama, around 1 p.m., with the intention of going to Las Vegas. He followed a road into a heavily wooded area where he says he saw a clearing. He first tried to dismember one of the children, but couldn't do it. So he placed each child in a separate bag.
Each child in a separate bag? And then did you walk them a couple at a time or one at a time? Which is it?
A couple at a time.
Couple at a time?
Just however many trips it took to get 5 of them over there.
Now, we asked if they're going to be essentially all together, if they put them in different places.
No, I put them in the same place. If somebody didn't check the bags and they started looking in there and moving around, I don't know what. Mm-hmm. For all I know, they may not be there.
Okay.
I'm not lying to you that much. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know what happened, obviously, between where I put them and the time I'm here now. I don't know if somebody went back and...
You said they just look like they're a pile of...
5 garbage bags.
5 garbage, so it looks like they're just garbage in there. Okay. So what do you do then? Do you try to hide the bags at all?
I just put them off to the side. I knew there was no hiding bags. There ain't no hiding this. I'm going to get caught. It's just a matter of time. I'm buying myself time. I'm going to get caught.
He drove aimlessly towards Las Vegas. He said he took the Scooby snacks because they calmed the voices in his head. He was then pulled over in Smith County, where he says everything blew up in his face. He told the officers that he self-medicates and admitted that he needed to see a doctor. He told them he was willing to go with investigators to help them locate the bodies. They gave him a computer and laid out maps so he could point to the area where the bodies would be found. A caravan of marked police officers, state law enforcement, FBI, and Tim then drove nearly 200 miles to recover the bodies. Once they arrived at the wooded area, according to police, the stench of decomposition filled the air. Tim pointed in the direction of where the bodies were and then was taken away from the scene. The coroner's office was notified to handle the recovery of the bodies. And then the cavalry arrived. Word had gotten out that there were 5 dead children located in remote Alabama, and so the question of jurisdiction came in. It wasn't immediately clear which county they were in, and the crime likely did not occur where the bodies were. There were officials from the local sheriff's office and the state police, and 2 helicopters dropped off Alabama state police officials in suits, and agents from SLED also arrived.
Why did you decide to confess?
I didn't do the right thing.
To do the right thing? That's exactly what you told me earlier. Do you feel guilty about the crime that you just confessed to?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. If so, why?
I felt that I took measures that were extreme, not necessary because of fear. I fear my life because of kids.
Okay. Did you do the crime on purpose?
Natan was an accident.
He was an accident.
That was really an accident. I was just trying to find out what was going on. If you look at that picture of me holding my little son, yeah, it's just a picture of me with the older one trying to say, son, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't tell me, and I don't know if he was messing with the stuff, and so PT took him over the edge.
Natan was an accident, but you murdered the other 4 children.
Yes.
Okay. Why did you do that? We talked about this earlier.
The voices started kicking and said, you better do something. You're fucked now, Tim.
What did you think about your children, just in general?
I think that they were going to have issues like me.
Issues like you? Okay.
I think that they were going to have issues from not only from a broken home. I think that there's genetic diseases I think that there was some things that my dad, if you guys had seen yesterday, he doesn't know about my mom.
Yeah.
I think that there's things I know about my mom, even though I wasn't around when that happened, because I think I've got some of what she has.
What kind of people do you think the children were when you committed the crime? I understand this is a weird question for what we're talking about, but we had to ask it earlier too.
I think they were conspiring.
And they were conspiring against you?
Definitely, it seems to make the most sense to me. I mean, why else would somebody go do something like that and not tell me what he's doing?
Do you understand that you've just... sorry, I'm getting behind myself. When you did this, did you think your actions could hurt the children?
Yes.
Yes? So you knew that what you were doing to the children was going to...
I knew that what I was going to
harm them, protect their lives.
It was to protect myself.
Okay.
I know that sounds fucking pathetic.
Now, when you did this crime, did you know it was wrong?
At the time, I didn't think any of it was wrong. It happened, and just... I'm happenstance, and... Let me finish it up now.
Okay. When you did the crime, did you know it was against the law?
At the time, I didn't think about the law, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
The law didn't come into my mind. I wasn't caring about the law. Dealing with dead children on my hands. Fuck the law. I'm in trouble, man. My kids are dead.
Yeah. Did you think you might get caught?
No, yeah. I knew I was going to get caught. I'm not a good criminal. It was a matter of time.
Prosecutors say those statements you just heard prove consciousness of guilt, that Tim had the capacity to know right from wrong. On January 12, 2015, a grand jury in Lexington County, South Carolina, signed a true bill for Tim's indictment on 5 counts of murder. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. In December 2015, 11th Circuit Solicitor Donald Myers served notice that prosecutors would be seeking the death penalty. In April 2016, Amber filed a lawsuit against the South Carolina Department of Social Services. And in September 2017, she filed another lawsuit against 5 retailers she says sold her ex-husband synthetic marijuana. Tim was scheduled to go on trial in February 2018, but the date was pushed back. And it wasn't until May 2019 when jury selection finally began. On May 14, 2019, Deputy Solicitor Sean Graham gave the opening statements on behalf of the state.
How are we going to prove to you that he had evil in his heart and evil on his mind when he killed those children? It'll be from the words that he told the police, and listen for the truth in the words. It'll be his actions in killing and how he killed his children. It'll be the fact that he ran and he tried to hide. It'll be in the way that he thought of to dispose the bodies of his children and how he actually did. It'll be in his deception of the way he lies to people to cover up his crimes. It'll be his thoughts. You'll actually get to see his thoughts.
He said Tim ran to try and save himself, that he hated his ex-wife Amber so much that he killed the kids so she couldn't see them again. A child should be safe in a father's arms, he said. A father is supposed to love his kid, but Tim loved himself more. He said Tim is not a father. He killed his children with malice and evil, that he's not insane, that he's a murderer. But Tim's defense team said the statements he gave to investigators actually prove that he was legally insane at the time. Tim was represented by a team of public defenders. One of those included Boyd Young from the South Carolina Capitol Defenders team, and who also represented Charleston church shooter Dylan Roof, a case I covered back in episode 28. Attorney Rob Madsen delivered opening statements on Tim's behalf.
You heard the judge say that Tim has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. It's not a defense that Tim picked out, like when you were in voir dire and the judge read you a list of defenses. That is a defense that the lawyers, in consultation with experts, a full examination of Tim and a review of his family history. Tim has schizophrenia, something he wasn't diagnosed with prior to his arrest. Tim's mind is broken. In deciding whether Tim knew the legal or moral right from wrong, you need to look at the full forest, not just a few trees. Tim was genetically loaded for mental illness. Children come into this life with genetic predispositions. Some genes determine your hair and your eye color. Other genes can influence diseases, such as diabetes or heart disease. Other genes can determine vulnerability to psychiatric conditions, such as addiction, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. Tim's mom has schizophrenia. She has been institutionalized for the last 2 decades. You will hear about major mental illness on both the paternal and the maternal side of Tim's family.
The state called Tim's former manager at Intel, the assistant principal at the children's school, and various law enforcement officers to the stand. But the most impactful moment was when they called Amber to speak about her children. She said Natan's favorite toy was Woody from Toy Story. She talked about what life was like during their divorce when the children were living with Tim. She said she wrote them letters to remind the kids that she loved them and was proud of them.
Because I knew my kids were hurting over us not being together anymore, and I felt as though it was my place to apologize for breaking their hearts.
The prosecutor asked Amber to read a letter she wrote to her daughter Mara, It read, "Mara, my sweet, sweet daughter, I know your heart is heavy and sad. I want to reassure you and your brothers and sisters that you mean everything to me. Mommy and Daddy are blessed to have you." Amber then suddenly turned around and started wailing out loud in court, sobbing that she was so sorry. Both sides, the prosecutors and the defense team, along with Tim, stood up and watched silently as Amber continued to break down on the stand. The court went into a recess. The jury was taken out of the room, and Amber was allowed to leave the witness stand. After a short while, she came back into the courtroom, and prosecutors briefly resumed the direct exam. Next, the defense was able to cross-examine her. She said their marriage did have good times, but that when they moved to South Carolina, Tim's anger issues got worse. Mood swings, flip-flopping. She even described it as bipolar. She said talking with Tim was like walking on eggshells because she never knew how he would react.
The thing with Tim is that you didn't really have to do anything. If I could say that, you didn't have to do anything to get him angry. Tim was just angry. There were more bad times down here than there were good. I'll put it that way. It got worse.
She said he was always a good father while they were married, and that he was never abusive towards the children. Tim's attorney asked about corporal punishment and if he spanked their children.
He did. He didn't spank often. He didn't. Tim and I were not big spankers in our house. He did more of push-ups and squats and stuff.
And writing.
And writing, yes. Writing what they did wrong and apologizing for it. But it was never to an extreme.
Right.
While we were married, no.
The prosecution asked Amber to clarify her comments about Tim's demeanor on redirect.
To me, it just meant that he was flip-flopping. I mean, it was getting worse. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. Every time I turned around, it was, am I going to, pardon my language, piss Tim off today? Or is he going to be nice?
The state introduced into evidence Tim's interview with investigators. He had told Agent Mackey and Detective Creech that he saw his son as with a gun in his hand and himself as a target. He said the voices in his head told him to do it.
When he got pushed to his limit, did he just pass out right there? Or what happened?
He went to bed and he was tired.
He went to bed and he just never woke up?
And then I came back to check on him and he wasn't breathing.
I said, oh, shit, what have I done? My kid's dead in my hand. They're going to think I murdered him. I just BT'd him. He's looking with the eye. I don't know what happened to him. And then all sorts of stuff starts triggering in my head, and that's like the other four become a victim.
Tim, have you ever heard or seen things that weren't really there?
Yes.
If so, has this been when taking drugs?
Both, with or without drugs.
With and without drugs. What did you see or hear?
I've seen people. I've had conversations. I've started to talk with people when there's nobody in the room.
You told me shapes earlier.
I'll see shapes. Yeah, that's the strangest thing. I'll see shapes and things that materialize that aren't real.
During the interview, Tim told the officers that he was seeing people, but he said on the day of the crimes, it was voices in his head that he couldn't quiet. He said he wasn't drinking or using drugs at the time. He only took the Scooby snacks afterwards to calm the voices in his head. When asked if he was ever told that he has a mental illness, Tim said people in high school called him crazy white guy, and the military told him he was wrongly enlisted. Prosecutors also introduced into evidence Tim's cell phone web search history. Searches conducted on his phone included herbal incense smoke shop near Atlanta, dog search for body in landfill, clean pool muriatic acid, and muriatic acid burn. He also searched for campsites and what does no extradition laws mean, and 5 countries where no U.S. extradition treaty. The defense, of course, had their opportunity to present a case. They played a recorded testimony from neuroradiologist Dr. Travis Snyder. Dr. Snyder presented an MRI of Tim's head, showing what he called a depressed skull fracture. He said it was from an old traumatic brain injury. He told the court while he was not going to diagnose schizophrenia from an MRI, there is a positive correlation. In studies of patients with traumatic brain injuries similar to Tim's, Dr. Snyder said people have shown symptoms of cognitive problems, lower intelligence, lower IQ, and also problems with executive functions, personality changes, and risk-taking. The defense also called Dr. Richard Frierson, a court-appointed psychiatrist. Dr. Frierson interviewed Tim on 6 occasions for a total of 19 hours. He testified that in his opinion, Tim had a substance-induced psychotic disorder from spice or synthetic marijuana the night Tim killed his 5 children. The doctor also diagnosed him with cannabis use disorder, severe, and alcohol use disorder, mild. He said in his opinion, spice contributed incredibly to what happened. Tim would use the drug up to 5 times a day. According to Dr. Frierson, Tim even tried to kill himself by taking spice after he killed the children, but said it didn't work. However, the doctor admitted that there were inconsistencies with when Tim said he used it. But despite the drug use at all, Dr. Frierson believes that Tim was able to tell right from wrong and would have been able to recognize his actions as legally and morally wrong.
That's what he said the first time I saw him. I've been hearing voices since I was 10. It's only through many more hours of evaluation that you have to ask him, describe the voices, tell me what you mean by voices. What do they say? And it became clear to me the more you talk to him about the content and how he described them, that what he is referring to as voices are not psychotic hallucinations, but they are his own anxious thoughts. I'll give you an example. He told the police officers in Mississippi that the voices started after his divorce or after the separation from Amber. I asked him about that. What did you mean by that? And he said, the voices were saying, what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of 5 kids? How am I going to be able to work and manage all of this? He said he couldn't concentrate at work because he kept having these intrusive thoughts. I think anybody who undergoes a divorce, or many people who undergo a divorce, is very stressful. And so the way he refers to his stressful, anxious thoughts is he refers to them as voices. And you ask him, does it sound like someone's in the room talking to you? No. And then later, as we've gone on, he will say to me, I know that now that these aren't hallucinations, but intrusive thoughts. And he would refer to his anxious thoughts as intrusive thoughts instead of voices.
He said since Tim's been incarcerated, he's been on Geodon and other antipsychotic medications. The defense then called a psychiatrist who met with Tim twice. Dr. Bhushan Agarkar, also known as Dr. Sean, met with Tim in 2017 and 2018 for a total of 3.5 hours. He said he also reviewed competency and criminal responsibility evaluations, along with MRIs. Then he told the jury what his ultimate finding was.
So based on my assessment, he suffers from schizophrenia, as well as what's called a minor neurocognitive disorder. That's just a fancy term for brain damage.
Dr. Sean explained that Tim's mother is hospitalized for schizophrenia and that his mother didn't want to feed him as a baby because she said she didn't want a fat baby. She also left him in cold water. He said that in the early years, as the brain is forming, high stress like that is bad for brain development. Tim was then raised by his grandmother, Roberta Thornsberry, and his father, Tim Jones Sr. Around the age of 10, Tim first reported hearing voices. He started using substances around age 12.
So what he reported was first hearing a voice at the age of 10, which told him to kill himself, and that this was different than his own thoughts, and it scared him. It really terrified him. That was his first recollection of voices.
And what do you know about his drug, alcohol use? When did that start?
As I say, it started somewhere around the age of 12 years old. He started smoking marijuana. He started drinking alcohol, I think around the age of 13 to 15. And he was experimenting some with cocaine around the age of 19.
What about things like mood swings and depression? Did you find any evidence of that?
Yes. That's what people noticed about him, that he would have mood swings and depression. And he actually had seen, that I'd seen some psychiatric evaluations of him in which he was complaining of depression as well.
Dr. Sean continued to tell the court about Tim's history and provided a timeline for the jury. He said a car accident at age 15 caused major head injuries. Tim also sustained other head injuries in his life, and as a result, a portion of his skull is caved in. At age 19, Tim was arrested on a cocaine charge, and in September 2001, he was charged in a crime spree that included burglary, car theft, and forged checks. He was sentenced to 7 years at an Illinois prison, but was released in 2003. He said Tim was discharged from the Navy. Records there indicate that he was complaining, had substance abuse problems, and depression. In 2004, Tim and Amber married. In 2011, they were living in South Carolina with 3 children, and Amber was pregnant with a 4th. During this time, a complaint was made to the Department of Social Services. DSS visited the home and ultimately said the case was for risk of injury due to the condition of the home, not neglect. In 2012, the couple separated. According to Dr. Sean, Tim started drinking and smoking a lot after the divorce. He said that while Tim has a high IQ, it's possible to be very smart and still be schizophrenic.
Did you consider the possibility that what he has is substance-induced psychosis?
Yes, I consider that.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what your opinion on that is?
Well, so we know that he started using spice a great deal, really, in the last 3 months before these events occurred. And so, obviously, one has to think about, well, then was the drugs the cause of this issue? Well, the first thing is that he told me that the drugs calmed him, that the drugs actually let him function. They quieted the voices, they reduced his irritability, they helped his moods, so he was able to actually function and go on. He was using drugs through that time, and people didn't think he was psychotic. He wasn't doing anything flagrantly psychotic, openly hallucinating in front of them, that sort of thing. So it wouldn't be as a cause of substances as I would see it from there. But to me, I think the biggest piece of evidence in that is that he has been treated for schizoaffective disorder, but basically schizophrenia, in the jail for 4.5 years with high doses of antipsychotic medicines. And there's no way substances would be causing you to have problems now, 4 years later. Additionally, my examination of him is absolutely consistent with someone with schizophrenia. But again, I think the fact that he's been treated in the jail for as long as he's been treated with antipsychotics says this is a real psychotic illness that he has. This is not caused by drugs.
Prosecutors then cross-examined him.
Just want to make clear, you are here to testify that after his arrest, it's your opinion that he meets the criteria for a diagnosis of schizophrenia, correct?
Yes, that's right.
You are not giving us an opinion as to his mental state on the date of the killings of his children, correct?
Correct. I did not perform a criminal responsibility evaluation. I'm leaving that to others.
So you're leaving that to others, and you're offering no opinion in this court today as to his mental state regarding the killings.
Right, as it relates to criminal responsibility, correct.
On the date and time of these killings, which was August 28, 2014, correct?
Correct.
And when you said you're giving no opinion on criminal responsibility, I'm going to go a little bit further and just have you explain that in terms that we all understand. You're not giving an opinion as to whether he knew the difference between right and wrong, correct?
Correct.
Now, that testimony is important to prosecutors because in order for the defense's strategy to work, they must prove that he was unable to distinguish right from wrong at the time he killed his children. For their rebuttal case, the state called Dr. Kimberly Cruz, a neuropsychologist. Dr. Cruz conducted a series of tests on Tim and spent a total of 8 hours with him. She explained one test that measures symptoms that may be experienced by patients with known mental illness.
But in this test in particular, his score was significant in unusual hallucinations, extreme symptomology. So his report of symptoms was beyond that individuals with schizophrenia would typically respond to. And also an unusual symptom course. So if you look at symptoms over the course of time, his report of symptoms did not match up with those individuals with known psychotic disorders.
Your report has something that says highly suggestive of malingered psychopathology.
Correct.
So all three of these tests show that there's malingering.
Correct.
Malingering is the key word for prosecutors in Dr. Cruz's testimony. It means the purposeful production of false or exaggerated psychological symptoms, otherwise known as faking. After Dr. Cruz's testimony, the state rested, and the trial proceeded to closing arguments. 11th Circuit Solicitor Rick Hubbard told the jury that there's no question that man over there killed 5 of his babies. He quoted Tim from his interview with the officers where he said, "Part of me says I'm their father. No father should do this to his children. Part of me says, fuck it, they're already dead." He said the jury had to determine whether Tim's a murderer or truly insane. He held up Natan's Woody doll, his favorite toy, for the jury to see. It had been torn into pieces by Tim. "This is a dad's rage," he said, taking it out on his son's favorite toy. That's part of the torture. Hubbard told the jury that he's standing there today, speaking for those who can't, that he has the unique role of speaking for the dead. "Today I'm speaking for 5 little babies, asking for justice. They didn't deserve this. They deserve justice." Boyd Young delivered closing arguments on behalf of the defense. He said Tim didn't decide what his defense was, but that the experts agreed that he was psychotic. He admitted that Tim told untruths and said he tried to buy time to hide. After the alleged accidental death of Natan, Tim said, "I think they're going to have issues like me. I thought they'd be better off in heaven than being like me." "Does it make sense?" Young asked the jury. "No, he's crazy. You can't rationalize crazy." He said Tim loved the kids, but thought they would be better off in heaven. He told the jury that Tim did not appreciate the moral wrongfulness of his conduct and that he's insane. The jury had 4 options here: guilty, guilty but mentally ill, not guilty by reason of insanity, or not guilty. The next day, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all 5 counts. That same jury would now be faced with another task, deciding if Tim Jones should be sentenced to life or death. This is known as the penalty phase, and it works similar to a trial with opening and closing statements by the defense and prosecution, and then both sides are entitled to present witnesses and evidence. In this phase, jurors must consider aggravating circumstances, factors supporting a stiffer penalty, and mitigating circumstances, factors that weigh in the defendant's favor. This time, the state made the children the subject of most of the evidence they presented. They began by calling witnesses that knew the 3 oldest children in elementary school. The school's assistant principal, Janet Ricard, was called again. She testified about how Elias had some difficulties with his reading and how she helped him out in her spare time. She called it a wonderful experience and said she has precious memories. A video of Elias practicing his reading for Mrs. Ricard was played for the jury. Tim watched the video from the defense table, but was expressionless. Elias's first-grade teacher, Jacqueline Moran, also spoke about having him in her class. She said she remembers that everyone wanted to be friends with him, that he was the kid anyone would play with. He was my little buddy, she said, as she cried on the stand. Next to speak was Jonathan Stone, Natan's kindergarten teacher. He called Natan a quiet kid, but said that everyone loved him. He said you couldn't help but smile when you saw him, that he would light up the world and give you a big old hug. He said Tim rarely communicated. He didn't attend parent-teacher meetings and never reached out about how his son was doing in class. He said Natan once described being punished by having to do burpees or run in place when he got into trouble. He then described how one day in his classroom, the assistant noticed a bruise in the shape of an adult-sized handprint on Natan's neck. Natan told them that his father was the one who did it to him. An allegation was filed by the school to DSS, and after that day, Tim ceased communication with the classroom and didn't even attend Natan's kindergarten graduation. The defense then had their turn to present mitigating factors, reason why they say Tim should be spared the death penalty. Tim's grandmother, Roberta Thornsberry, said she wishes there was something she could have done to help, could have done to save her great-grandbabies. She asked the jury to spare Tim's life because the death of the children broke their family so badly, and she believes that Tim's death would be too much for them to handle as well. Tim Jones Sr. was also called to speak. He took off his shirt to show the jury the tattoo he got on his back after the death of the children. Covering the top part of his back was a tattoo of each of the children's faces, along with 2 of his own siblings that have died. He told the jury that he does not want his son to be put to death. The children's mother, Amber, was also called by the defense. When asked if she wanted Tim to be put to death, she said she can't bring herself to want anyone to die. That as a mother, if she could personally rip his face off, she would, but that she doesn't think she should have his life in her hands. She said she doesn't want the Jones family to feel what she felt in losing her kids. "Do you want mercy for Tim?" she was asked. "I do," she responded. "I don't say it lightly. He did not show my kids mercy, but my kids loved him." The jury went into deliberations for their second and final time. They returned with their decision in less than 2 hours.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, have found beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following statutory aggravating circumstances, to wit, 2 or more persons were murdered by the defendant by act or pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct, and the murder of 5 children 11 years of age or younger. Now recommend to the court that the defendant, Timothy R. Jones, Jr., be sentenced to death.
The jury made their recommendation of the death penalty, and while they read it out loud, Tim again stared straight ahead, expressionless. Then Judge Eugene Griffith, Jr. officially sentenced him to death and ordered him to be held with the South Carolina Department of Corrections. Judge Griffith said that he shall suffer death by electrocution or lethal injection, as by law in South Carolina. And that's all for today's episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. Do you agree with the jury? Do you think mental illness played a role? And if so, what verdict would you have voted for? Let me know by joining our discussion on Instagram @CourtJunkie, tweeting me @CourtJunkiePod, or emailing me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Jennifer Tintner from the Law and Crime Network. You can follow Jennifer on Twitter @JenniferTintner. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.
You can follow sports through sound bites or the full story.
From up in the press box or down on the sidelines.
What do you want to accomplish this year?
Actually, I want to accomplish getting on this team first.
This fall, a new daily podcast brings you closer to the sports stories that matter.
Stories about players.
A guy like Zion just represents that hope of the failures of the past don't matter because we've got this guy now.
Stories about hometowns.
You will see hundreds of people wearing number 32 Simpson jerseys in the stands on Sunday afternoons for a Bills home game.
And stories about the teams you love.
This was the first chance for all those baseball fans to see their guys.
From The Athletic, home to the best storytelling in sports.
And Wondery, the company behind Sports Wars and Gladiator.
I'm Kavitha Davidson.
And I'm Anders Kelto. Introducing The Lead. Go beyond the box score 5 days a week.
This isn't a story where you go to some place and interview the athlete and go home. It stays with you.
Are you kidding? I have never seen anything like that. The Lead is out now. Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening right now.
The Lead. Sports up close.
Hey, I need some more of that.